Shabbat Shalom. On the day that Shiri, Ariel, and Kfir Bibas of blessed memory were laid to rest, I was in Israel. As the funeral procession made its way through the south, it felt as if the entire country was weeping tears of sadness and fury over the senseless tragedy that befell Shiri and her precious red-headed babies. Their savage murders crushed a piece of Israel's collective soul and plunged this nation into a state of utter despair. Such was the backdrop of the few days I spent there, days punctuated by the return of slain hostages, by their consequent burials and memorials, by terror attacks, by stories upon stories of displacement and devastation, and by endless heartache, soul-searching, and distress amidst a country still deep in trauma these 17 months after the attacks of October 7th. I traveled to Israel on a clergy mission with a group of 10 rabbis from across the United States who had come to bear witness to Israel's immense suffering and sorrow, to express our sense of solidarity, and to reinforce the bridges of love and support that exist between our American and Israeli communities. As we sat together on that first night of our mission, my colleagues and I were asked to share our hopes for the journey ahead. Given the context and the torment all around us, we kept our hopes pretty simple. We hoped to learn. We hoped to grow. We hoped to gain understanding and perspective and empathy. But mostly because so many of us had arrived with heavy hearts, we hoped to witness the strength and resilience that had kept Israel going since October 7th. In the 4 days that we traveled throughout Israel, we not only witnessed this strength, we were enveloped by it. It surrounded us, inspired us, and lifted us at each and every turn. Despite the overwhelming challenges of this moment, there were glimmers of light in every corner and crevice of this country. And tonight, I want to share some of those remarkable stories with you. Story number 1, Cafe Otef. Nestled amidst the bustling streets of Tel Aviv, there sits a quaint cafe called Cafe Otef, or Cafe Envelope in English. If one were to walk by, they might notice the artisanal coffee or the fabulous array of baked goods. They might also notice the decor or the beautiful art on the walls. But this isn't just any cafe. This is one born out of the ashes of October 7th and built to support survivors, their families, and communities. This branch of Cafe Otef in particular is dedicated to Kibbutz Re'im, where 80 terrorists attacked its residents, murdering 7 and kidnapping 4. The cafe owner, Re'ut Karp, whom we had the privilege of meeting, was also a resident of Re'im. On October 7th, she was in Tel Aviv on business. At home, her children were staying with their father, Dvir, a renowned chocolatier known as the Chocolate Man of the Gaza envelope. That morning, Hamas terrorists stormed Dvir's home and murdered him and his partner in front of their children. The loss of Dvir and the trauma of his death have been utterly devastating for Re'ut and her family. But Dvir's memory lives on through his chocolate, which is proudly served at Cafe Otef in honor of his life and his passion. In fact, all the food at Cafe Otef, the cheese, the honey, the delicious baked goods, all of it is sourced from Ra'im and other devastated regions in the south. And all of the employees at Cafe Otef are evacuated residents from the south too. This cafe has become, for so many survivors and their families alike, a place of refuge and community. It is a light that has emerged from the darkness, a remarkable story of rebirth and renewal in the face of death and destruction. As Re'ut shared with us, this cafe gives me a reason to get up and get out of bed every day for myself, for my children, and for my community. Story number 2, I'm still here. As we made our way towards the Lebanese border, the highways drained slowly of cars. So many of these northern towns were still abandoned, ghost towns, if you will. In the days after October 7th, huge swaths of the north were evacuated on account of the threat and constant rocket fire from Hezbollah. Thousands were displaced, and so many have yet to return. We soon arrived at Kibbutz Rosh Hanikra, a breathtaking community in the mountains overlooking the Mediterranean. It is the northernmost town on Israel's western coastline and literally a stone's throw away from Lebanon. The border fence, in fact, snakes prominently through the kibbutz. We toured with several residents, some who had returned, others who had not, one who never left. And to hear their testimony about October 7th and the harrowing days that followed was bone-chilling. As Meirav, a longtime resident, kept saying, how come Hezbollah didn't come? It was a miracle. It was a miracle. One community member named Carol was still struggling. She said, over these many decades, I have never, ever felt unsafe in my home here. For years, there were Hezbollah towers all around. I could see them. And when I worked in the kibbutz baby house, they could see me. I trusted all would be okay. But all was not okay. Carol has not moved back home despite her longing for the kibbutz she helped establish. Moreover, she has become completely conflicted over her Israeli identity, her purpose, even her place in Israel. And over these 17 months, she has spent many a sleepless night wrestling with the meaning of Zionism. Carol's struggles embody the complexities so many are facing in Israel right now, complexities so often missing from our own discourse around Israel. That being said, as we finished our conversation, Carol had this to say: despite everything, I'm still here. I'm still here. This is my Zionism. This is why I came to Israel, to build and to be a part of this struggle. And in that moment, we saw both the strength and the vulnerability of Israel written across her face. She was suffering, she was grappling, and she was aching. But she was most determinedly and most resolutely still there. Story number 3, pieces of peace. About an hour's drive north of Tel Aviv sits the sprawling campus of Givat Haviva. Founded in 1949, Givat Haviva is considered to be one of the oldest organizations in Israel promoting the notion of a Jewish and Arab shared society. Their vision is anchored in the principles of mutual respect, trust, pluralism, and equality between all citizens. And they incubate scores of programs designed to bring Jews and Arabs together. At Givat Haviva, we had the honor of sitting down with Mohammed Darwasha, a renowned expert on Jewish-Arab relations in Israel, who's devoted his life to this sacred but deeply challenging work of peace building. He has partnered with numerous scholars and leaders in both Israel and America, including my sister-in-law, Jessica Balaban, who is here tonight and is also a trailblazer in this space. Mohammed, an Arab Israeli whose family has been in Israel for now 27 generations, spoke to us about his vision for Israel. It's not coexistence we're looking for, but a shared society, a partnership in which all parties are equal. He spoke about reaching not for sweeping gains, but small changes that elicited meaningful results. For instance, though Israel is a highly segregated society, there are now a few notable places of integration, like high tech, where Arabs represent 23% of workers, and the medical profession, where 24% of doctors and 55% of pharmacists are Arab. Mohammed calls these examples pieces of peace. Each piece matters and draws you closer to the whole. Mohammed's work has never been easy, but now it's become unfathomably difficult. Though 10/7 initially brought the Arab and Jewish communities together, as there were terrible losses in the Arab community as well, including Mohammed's cousin, many of those ties have now since frayed. In truth, the situation has become extremely fraught, as many Arab Israelis, a great deal of whom consider themselves Palestinians, have family or dear ones in Gaza and see the Palestinian struggle as an extension of their own. Therefore, at this inordinately tense moment, one can imagine how difficult and delicate a proposition it is to bring Jews and Arabs together. Still, despite the overwhelming difficulties, Mohammed continues, for he still believes in the necessity and integrity of this work, and he still believes in the promise of a more peaceful and equitable Israeli society, even amidst the glaring horrors of war, even as inequalities between Arabs and Jews become ever starker in Israel, even as mistrust between Arabs and Jews within Israel has increased, and even when his own family has been impacted by the conflict, he has forged on. He recently wrote, "Out of every calamity, it is possible to extract points of light and hope for a better future." Even in the dark shadow of October 7th, Mohammed reminds us the light of peace has not yet dimmed. At this intensely fragile moment in Israel, as fighting has resumed once more in Gaza, as 59 hostages remain captive, as a return to release talks feels ever more distant, as more soldiers and reservists go to battle, and as Israelis and Americans become ever more polarized, there is enormous worry about the toll this will take on Israel and the Jewish community writ large. How will Israel cope with a war that seemingly has no end? How will they go on with no hostage deal in sight? And how will they endure the intense political battles roiling the nation? The multiple traumas they're now facing are simply staggering. Sadly, our people are no strangers to trauma. In fact, our Torah portion, Vayakhel, takes place in the wake of a trauma that nearly destroyed our ancestral community, the episode of the golden calf. But as we open the Torah this week and read of the Israelites gathering in community, we see our people did survive. We did recover, as we have recovered countless times throughout these millennia. In Israel right now, the climate feels particularly dark and despairing. Amidst the turmoil, it's hard to know what will be. And yet what I do know is this: the people of Israel are incredibly resilient. They are incredibly courageous, and they are incredibly bold. The people I met give me hope that we too will emerge from this trauma in a story that is not yet written. Yes, we will emerge as Reut and her community emerged from Kibbutz Re'im. And we will struggle for an Israel and a Zionism that speaks to our values, as Carol is so bravely struggling. And God willing, we will strive for a more peaceful, more equitable, and more just path forward, as Mohammed has striven these many, many years. Adonai oz le'amo yiten. Adonai yivarech et amo v'shalom. May God grant strength to our people. And may God bless us and our neighbors with understanding, with openness, and with peace. Amen.